There are things outside of our control that will affect us whether we want to or not. You can either try to fight that or you can accept it, I guess be mature about it. Really, most of my success has come from allowing myself to have moments of stillness and allowing myself to focus on the emotional processing stuff. There's someone who's not sure if this is going to work for them or if they're stuck and not sure how to keep going. Probably it's because they need more self-awareness and self-compassion.
Looking back, like how you were, what data do you have versus now?
Oh, I mean, I feel like I'm capable of being a real adult now. And you know, when I first started the program, I would have said that, you know, feeling like a real adult required some kind of, I don't know, a kind of power and authority that I could show outwardly.
Mhm.
And now I've realized that the feeling like an adult comes from kind of like I shared, like being aligned with myself
Mhm.
internally.
Yeah, nice.
Um,
And what were like your, so you mentioned you feel more okay with your feelings, right?
yeah,
Internally. So how were you feeling in the beginning? Like what was the top emotions that you would experience?
lots of anger, lots of anxiety, lots of, I'm trying to find the right word. Like I was doing lots of comparing, but that's not an emotion. I'm trying to find the right emotional word for that. Like jealousy. That's the
Like
one.
yeah, like envious, right? You were
Yeah.
envious of others. Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
And feeling inadequate and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. And it obviously affected your relationships, even with obviously your spiritual life, where
Yep.
it wasn't as important as you mentioned. So, okay. So navigating through that, when did you start noticing like, oh, me being consistent with this actually helped me reveal these parts of me that were like angry, envious, pretty much all these negative states. When did that start happening to you?
Um, I mean, I feel like it kind of started happening all along, but I mean, really since probably since November. So the last 3 to 4 months, I would say, is when it really was evident. Yeah.
Okay. And what tools help you there the most to kind of get you to that place?
I mean, in the beginning, it was dialoguing for sure. I haven't used that tool nearly as much in the last 4 to 6 months, but in the first, for sure, the first half of my reboot time, dialoguing was a huge tool for, getting to know the subparts and letting them have their voice and, developing the relationships with those parts to the point where, they understood me, I understood them, and then we could build trust with each other, which allowed me to then, you know, go further and develop, the peace and the self-confidence that I have now.
Okay. Nice, bro. And so it took you quite, like you said, like even not that long ago, right? To kind of reveal those,
Yeah.
like pretty much those states and really dealing with I don't want to say root cause, but essentially that what it was happening in that moment, which was like what was evident in your life that I needed to handle these in order for me to experience more joy or perhaps more just overall happiness in your life.
Yeah.
So, okay, so having that revealed to you, how did you react to like, wow, what was like your that moment of like what were your thoughts? What was going on? How did you feel?
I guess I don't feel like it was ever a specific moment. It just kind of was a slow burn, like a slow change,
Mhm.
day after day, week after week. I mean, there were a few coaching calls for sure, where, maybe there was a bigger breakthrough than at other times. But I mean, there were dozens of those moments then. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I wouldn't say there was one specific moment where it was like, oh, everything's different. Other than, I mean, I guess I could share recently, like literally within the last 2 weeks, there was a moment where, and again, I don't know what triggered it, if it was just, the accumulation of everything I've been learning, probably, rather than one specific thing I could point to as the trigger. But
Mhm.
it's like something switched in my brain where it was like, oh, these, you know, attractive women or whatever it is that I'm still, lusting after or being triggered by or feeling inadequate by. Like, they're not what I actually want. They're just trigger points for the familiar neural pathway in my brain. And it's like I was finally able to separate the neural pathway that was leading me to addictive behaviors from like actual, like, real world women and feelings and relationships. And suddenly it was like, oh, this path literally won't give me what I've always thought it would give me.
Mm.
And it's not even designed to. Like, it's not designed for completion. This pathway relies on me staying in fantasy chasing mode forever,
Wow. Okay.
if that
That's
makes sense.
no, that made perfect sense. Like you broke a spell.
Kinda.
Right? You're like, whoa, this is not exactly what I thought it would be. And you're right, real world is very different, right? An actual human that's involved, it's different. They have their own shit to deal with. They receive love differently, right? And it's like interesting that you say that. So, wow, that's a really good sign of progress, brother. And I feel like that's the hardest one to break, I feel like, because you want it to be real, like, oh, this one thing will make me whole or make me
Yeah.
feel like this ecstasy chase, whatever it is that we want. And when reality, it's literally like you've been doing this whole time, right? Learning to regulate yourself and not
Yes.
using a person or a thing, right? Porn, sex, masturbation, whatever. You put your poison there to help you feel like I need this in order to survive or to
Yeah.
feel like I'm lacking. So that's really good, brother. Thank you for sharing that. And I would say that's amazing. I like that moment. I would say that's a good like epiphany or that moment like, oh, you know
Yeah.
what? This is awesome. And you're right. And these are like, I agree with you. These little steps that you take, regardless if you're dialoguing or whatever tool that was most helpful for you, I would say over time it will compound and you'll see a result. I'm not going to say I'll guarantee you a positive one because it may
Yeah.
lead to a quote unquote negative experience, which will help you get that breakthrough because sometimes
Yeah.
it's painful to get there. And we perceive it as something that, oh, it's not that, oh, I'm not growing or I'm not progressing in my reboot. If anything, all this data and awareness that you're getting is setting you up for that moment or that success, which is control your behavior and going even further, which you touched on earlier, that you actually more spiritual now is what I heard, right? You're more into
Yeah.
more involved in that area. So how has that been for you? Of course, whatever you're comfortable sharing, been for you since you have more control of your behavior, your brain's healing, rewiring. So how has that affected like your spiritual life?
I mean, I guess it's allowed me to be more comfortable with submission in a positive sense. One of my things before rebooting was that submission was all negative and demeaning. And, you know, learning to sit with and process and understand my emotions and all that has helped me understand that submission can be a positive thing, or it doesn't have to be a negative. And I mean, basically life requires it, whether you're religious or not, right? I mean, we don't have control over nature. We don't have control over, our physiology and biology. And, like, yeah, we do to some extent, but like there are things outside of our control that will affect us whether we want it to or not.
Right.
And, you can either try to fight that like I used to, or you can accept it and, yeah, I guess be mature about it.
That's good, man. I like that the aspect of control. A lot of us do want that, right? Or we have that perceived control over even our sexual compulsive behavior early on. It's like, yeah, it feels like you're in control because you're the one acting out and you're the one watching things. But if anything, we're so afraid of relinquishing that control that we don't know what's out there and what's better, what's going to serve us. So yeah, just trusting that everything will work out. And like you said, submission is not a bad thing. Even like, not to be crass, but even having sex or being in sexual or intimacy requires relinquish, right? Control over or
Yep.
submission, right? So it kind of translates in a lot of things in life. And I would agree. It's just learning to that you're gonna be okay. And then if anything, when you start to relinquish or those wants or core wants, love, control, approval, love, etc., we need to do that in order to receive it. And that's a great practice, I would say, for anyone. And that's how you know when someone's like more into I would say late stage and to heading to maintenance stage of the reboot when they start focusing more on these areas where you know what there's something perhaps more introspective. In this case, it 9 times out of 10 they tend to work on their spiritual life or have a spiritual practice,
Yep.
which is good. It means that you're understanding there's a higher purpose. There's something. Why am I on this earth? Right? Those existential questions that we
Yeah.
ask at some point in our life. But brother, this is good, man. So, how is things with your accountability partners? Has that been a great helpful for you in your reboot?
Yeah. I mean, early on, I had two accountability partners, one main one, both of who kind of I would say kind of fell off of the program. And I think both of them, their time is up probably a few months ago already. So back in, I guess, probably the summer, I sought out some additional ones and created a group with three other guys, which even there's, some of us are more active than the others in that group. And then there's one or two other guys outside of that we didn't necessarily agree to be like APs specifically, but we just connected on similarities in our posts and started chatting in Facebook, outside the group. So yeah, I would say that, they've been helpful to keep me, I wouldn't even say grounded, but like, I guess call me out on things when I need to be and just
Right.
more, they're just there. Like
Yeah.
it's just an extra,
Yeah. Accountability, right? It's
yeah,
like you're there. That's good. And you know, it's almost like an insurance, right? It's like, okay, I could lean on someone and vice versa, right? They can lean on me if needed. And it's not like this high pressure thing where it's like, some people are reliant or dependent on accountability. And
yeah,
you're becoming, what is that, self-efficacy, right? You're learning to, oh, I know what works for me. I know that I'm not gonna be in crisis 24/7 when you learn to have tools, be grounded yourself. Again, you trust yourself enough to handle it. And when I need help, you have counsel, you have guidance, right? Church,
yep.
people. So and that's normal, bro. So that's actually a common thing that happens when you're at a later stage in your reboot. All right, brother. Another quick question, right? I know you joined some of the letting go calls. How was your experience with that? If you don't mind sharing those calls that I run.
Yeah, I mean, they were all good experiences. I can't say that I always got the best value out of them from like because of my own fault. Like, a lot of them I was taking in, while driving or while, semi-distracted because it was during work time. So,
Right.
other than the ones where I was explicitly like able to jump on because it was at a lunch hour or where I was in the hot seat. It was more just kind of, I wouldn't say background noise because I was paying more attention than that. But yeah. Um, but no, I mean, there were three or four specific ones where I was in the hot seat where, you helped me kind of dig deeper to, maybe the base emotion or base thought pattern behind what was holding me up and, help me get through it faster.
Nice. Okay, yeah, brother. And yeah, I know it wouldn't be as much like detail because I do remember your schedule's conflicting. But yeah, I remember our conversations and it's always just to kind of question, right? And why am I buying into certain things? And it's not set in stone, right? These beliefs or thoughts, it's not us. It's really something that it's protecting us from experiencing, like you mentioned earlier, right? That freedom that we want. And I feel like we always could find something, right? We could always dig up something and just poke at it a bit more
Yep.
and really work on and when we get into like reboot definition, right? That's something a concept that we have here. But no, thank you for sharing, Andrew. But brother, not to, take up more of your time, what would you say to a brother here that's like, I would say listening to this and they're like, you know what? is it possible for me to get to this stage? Did it relate to you perhaps like an, you know what, I'm a very angry person, I'm very reactive, but there's still part of me that is still hesitant. Like, what would you say to that, brother?
I mean, I feel like really most of my success has come from allowing myself to have moments of stillness and allowing myself to focus on kind of the stuff Dr. Eastman teaches, the emotional processing stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if I guess if there's someone who's not sure if this is going to work for them or if, they're stuck and not sure how to keep going, I feel like probably it's because they need more self-awareness and self-compassion. So I don't know if that's really,
That's good.
answering the question the right
You
way.
know, no, I like what you said, like awareness and self-compassion. I think that's great advice for someone that's watching this. Because one, they don't know what's driving it's unconscious, and two, they're probably being very critical of themselves.
Yeah.
Therefore, it hinders them to move forward. So, no, brother, I well said. Awareness and self-compassion.
Yeah.
Those are great things, brother. So, Andrew, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate. Obviously, we talked with your wife, and we seen the progress there. But obviously, wanted to hear your more personal take one on one. Yeah, brother, that is it. So, thank you for sharing. And brothers who are listening, this brother's done really exceptional, I would say. And he put in the work. He's no different than you. All he did was he trusted himself, talked to Reboot Heroes, the coaches, Dr. Eastman, Rankin, Milan, and even JK, some of his live sessions that he's been doing more recently. Obviously, we cover all areas of your reboot, and we're here to help you. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you, man.